Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Sever7, and today we are taking a look at the Pena X Series Moolah, and that's with the ultimate goal of seeing if it's worth adding to your collection or your daily carry rotation. Now, this did come by way of Crane's Cutlery, so big shout out to Crane's Cutlery for letting me borrow these. I don't get to keep them. I say these because they sent more than one knife, but you should definitely check out Crane's Cutlery, especially if you like exclusive knives with zircotai. Zircotai is my personal favorite material to add to a knife because I like the blues and the grays. So I will have a link for Crane's Cutlery. It's not an affiliate link, but I will have a link for them down in the description. All right, so jumping right into it, we've got smooth, non-textured titanium scales. We have blue anodized body screws, and that's on both sides. We have a zircotai pivot collar. We have zircotai thumb studs, and then we have this medium carry. You're going to have about from my finger up, poking out of your pocket, zircotai pocket clip. We also have Zirc 1/3 backspacer. That's a lot of Zirc. And then we have a spot for a lanyard hole. Overall, I think the closed profile of this knife is super handsome. I love the zircotai. I'm really digging the whole vibe of this knife. Let's talk about the ergonomics. Ergos are super straightforward. It's a neutral grip. It thickens out slightly towards the butt. I get a full 4-finger grip. I can hammer fist it. I have large size hands, by the way, large size glove. But there's no pinch points, there's no hot spots. Even if I squeeze down really hard, this knife is comfortable. We do have functional jimping up here, so you can really lock in. It'll stop your finger from moving forward, which is awesome. Jump it over to the blade. We do have, this is Riot OEM, by the way. We do have a beautiful hand satin M390 blade. That's good for edge retention. Not so great for toughness. It's about average for corrosion resistance. We have a really handsome swedge up top. We do have a lot of billboarding up front. I feel like that billboarding could have been moved to back here, and that M390 could have been moved maybe down here out of the way. So not a huge fan of the billboarding. I think it interrupts the very clean aesthetic of this knife. And if you could just imagine that not being there, whew, night and day. So clean. But it is what it is. I've certainly seen worse branding, so I get it. Now let's talk about the action. So we've got thumb studs and we've got front flipper. The action on this knife, I'll admit the pivot is a little tight. I could probably loosen that up a little bit, but the action is super snappy. We have good acoustics, and it does take a shake to get it to close, but on the close, that sound, super satisfying to hear that. That is the sharpening choil making contact with the stop pin. And I've noticed the thinner the stop pin, and this one's fairly thin, the thinner the stop pin, the more of a, like, kind of a, not a ting per se, but the more of a high-pitched sound you'll get on the close. So executed very clean. Front flipper, fantastic, easy to deploy. Thumb flip, super easy. I haven't taken this knife apart to lube it because it's not my knife and I don't want to, scratch the Zerk or scratch the scales or anything. But I feel like if I lubed it, because look how free that drop was. Okay, that one was less free. And whenever I first got this knife, the action was not the best, but I spent like half a day with it, and it just started breaking in so well. Oh, very functional blade shape. I would call this a modified sheep's foot because we do have some belly. It is poking up a little bit. Some people might call this a warnie, but for me, it's a little too soft to be a warnie, so I would call this a sheep's foot, modified sheep's foot. Um, like, it's going to be super utilitarian because we've got what I believe is either a really thin hollow, or sorry, a really thin flat grind, but I really think it's hollow ground. Like, pretty positive it's a hollow. So, and we've got not necessarily belly, but we've got curves, right? She's got curves. So it's still going to be good for slicing, especially with how thin it is behind the edge. But we do have robustness. So if you look, we kind of, we're thick. We thin up a little bit because of the swedge. But then if you look at that tip, we get pretty thick again, right? So you're not going to have to worry about being brittle. That thickness does go pretty far out to the tip. So it's not going to be easy to snap or chip the tip off or anything like that. I think this is a great kind of like highbrow everyday carry. Man, that just looks so good. Super clean. We've got the lock bar relief cut on the outside, and that's to make sure that we have a straight line going all the way up, as opposed to if you were to swap this to being on the inside, you would have a straight line, and then you would kind of come out here to the left, and then that's where the line would be, and then it would kind of come back into the right, and then it would go up. So it's more structurally sound to have the lock bar relief cut on the outside. That way you just have that straight continuous line. Man, this action though. All right, let's do some size comparisons. First, we're going to go up against the milled aluminum Civivi Brazen. It is the third best Civivi ever made, next to the Visions. And it looks like we're coming in about an inch shorter than the Brazen. Definitely not a small knife. I would say this is right at full size, and this is a little bit larger than full size. Up against the Real Steel Sylph. Looks like the Pena is coming in maybe a quarter of an inch bigger than the Real Steel. And my second favorite budget knife so far this year, the Migron Gatov. And that is coming in, I would say about an inch and a quarter smaller than the Pena. Now sorry for the shake. I didn't even get into measurements, guys. What's going on with me? Talking about measurements overall, we're looking at 7.625. We've got a blade length of 3.25. That gives us a blade to handle ratio of 0.74. Anything above 0.7 is acceptable. The closer you get to 0.8, the more you get that 50-50 look, like that Shirogorov look where it looks like both sides are about even. But 0.74 is perfectly fine. And then we have an overall weight of 4 ounces. Now, let's talk about how much this bad boy cost. So this knife originally was $417. That's a lot of money. It's a whole lot of money. It's currently on sale for $377. So what is that? Like $40 off? Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, it's about $40 off. At $417, did I think it was a fair price? Absolutely. I absolutely did. We have to look at its realistic competition, and this is going to be sitting up with, let's compare it to Vero, right? Vero has OEM stuff from, I believe, Bestech and Riot, and they have knives that sit just over $400 that don't give you any zerkatai, right? They're just standard build. We can look at Jack Wolf knives. And Jack Wolf makes awesome knives, but they're $350. And I think that's a fine price for Jack Wolf knives. But for an extra $27, you get a truck ton of zirconium. And that's not cheap. That zirconium actually justified the bump to me to 417, because normally if you want a Zircotite kit, it's like 100 to 175 bucks. So, if we just slap this next to Jack Wolf without the Zircotite and we say this knife is 350 without the Zirc, which I think would be fair for a Riot made knife, 350 bucks. That's reasonable. But then for 67 bucks, or basically like half off, you get all this Zircotite. Yeah, 417 is a fair price. 377 is a phenomenal price. So, based on the build quality, my experience with it, and the action, look at all that Zirc. I keep forgetting the backspacer is all Zircotite. It's even layered, right? We've seen that kind of thing with Porculo, but they have it layered vertically, whereas this is horizontal. But that's a lot, right? And it's an exclusive through Crane's Cutlery. So, they had to pay for it. They need to get their cut back out of it. Riot has to get their cut out of it. Pena needs to get his cut out of it. And honestly, they could have probably thrown this up at 350 bucks with no Zircotite. I don't think people would have batted an eye at it. That's just the nature of high-end production knives right now, is that we're sitting between 350 and 400. Like that, I mean, for the most part, that's just what it is for high-end production knives. So yeah, 377. I can wholeheartedly recommend this knife. The action alone really does it for me. But, well, actually, no, I shouldn't say that. The Zircotite really does it for me. But this action's phenomenal. And I'm willing to bet after breaking in a little bit more, or after lubing the pivot and the bearings, I would get that hydraulic shut that I so desperately seek in every knife that I have. Yeah, see, it's practically begging to get there. So let me ask you guys, is this something that would find its way into your collection? Is this a daily carry piece for you, or did this knife completely miss the mark altogether? Whatever the answer is, let me know down in the comments. I'd be really interested to hear your guys' answers. But for me, this is absolutely a daily carry. It could be very easily a collection piece, but I know that if zirconium gets scratched or damaged, you can use heat to bring the colors back to it. So I'm not worried about jacking it up too much. And it's just too fun not to have in the pocket. Like, I really enjoy. Let me try that again. I really enjoy fidgeting this knife, especially after the break-in period, because at first I thought it was a little stiff. So, I mean, if you're looking for, really good performance at what I consider to be a really great price, then I'll have this knife and others linked down in the description. I'd recommend checking out Crane's Cutlery anyway, because like almost every knife they have is an exclusive, and it's just smothered in Zircotite, right? And that's just cool to look at no matter what. The easiest way to do it, though, when you go to the site, filter price, high to low or low to high, doesn't matter. But that'll give you some organization, as far as like where things are at. So, other than that, guys, that's really all I had. All I had. So I just want to say I super appreciate you guys, all your comments, the subscribers. We're just shy of 1,500. We will have a 1,500 subscriber giveaway, absolutely. And just the support and the growth has been fantastic. I appreciate you guys very much. Thank you for that. If you found the video useful or entertaining, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, guys, peace.